to Jonathan Taylor. Huge hole. He's at the 30. He's going to go. 10, 5, touchdown. Jonathan Taylor made a man miss the line of scrimmage and then runs it into Pater for a one-handed INT. Are you kidding me? Kenny Moore.
What a play by Nyheim Hines.
Horseshoe is back, baby. The horseshoe is back.
What's going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Bring the Juice Colts podcast. Well, the Indianapolis Colts selected 7 players in the 2021 NFL Draft. Cody Foger, Derek Larger here. And we are going to talk about what impact these rookies are going to have, in our opinion, in the 2021 season. We're going to start here with their first pick number 21 in the first round, defensive end from Michigan, Kwity Paye. So, Derek, what are your thoughts on what kind of impact Kwity Paye will have in 2021?
Well, I can certainly tell you that my realistic view of Kwity Paye is probably going to be a little bit more critical than what I think some of the Colts Nation is thinking. I think a lot of Colts Nation is thinking, oh, this guy, he's going to get 10 sacks. He's going to, light the league on fire. I don't know if that's going to be quite Kwity Paye. Honestly, I think Kwity Paye to me is a first year is a 6-sack kind of guy. I think that's probably what I would expect at maximum to start. I certainly hope he proves me wrong on that. But I mean, again, this guy's just extremely raw, has all the talent in the world to be able to help out. I certainly know that our run defense hasn't taken a step back. Kwity Paye is definitely really good in the run game, has a lot of extra effort in him, which is great. That's good for the kind of defense that the Colts like to have. Guys that aren't selfish, they fight through the whistle and, are really good with gap responsibility. He's good with gap responsibility, very strong, can shred blocks to get to the inside and make that tackle. So run defense, I think, is still going to stay the same with Kwity Paye on the edge. Honestly, we might, the first year with 2021, might take a slight step back in the pass rushing department when it comes to total sacks. Now, I could see Kwity getting more pressures than what Danico Autry did in a lot of circumstances. But I think overall sacks will just go down a little bit. But I expect more from him later on. But this year, with him still having to learn and going up against better talent, I think it's going to be a slight step down from that.
It's always hard, I feel like, for corners and defensive ends specifically that you draft. Sometimes it's a rare occurrence where they do just pop off right away. But, yeah, I think it's just a normal thing for some of these guys to take a little bit of time. I mean, heck, you look at a guy like Tyquan Lewis, now entering year number 3? And it took him a little bit of time to find his footing. And a guy like Ben Banogu, he still hasn't found his footing quite yet. Kemoko Turay took over a year, right, to start really, showing flashes. So I think, yeah, I agree with you. I don't think the sacks will be maybe as high as some people. I don't think he'll get double-digit sacks. Now, he very much could prove us wrong. We could be looking like idiots in a year. I don't know. I'm fine with that. But, yeah, I think you're right there. I think he's going to provide a quality minute. I think he's going to be a pretty good defensive end. I think he's just got to work on some of his arsenal for pass rush moves and stuff of that department. But physically, he's everything you want. A locker room guy, he's everything you want. So, yeah, I'm not concerned about Kwity Paye. Like, maybe the numbers won't look like eye-popping, but I think he'll consistently get some pressure. He's just got to refine some things in his arsenal and his toolbox to just continue to get better. And I think he will. He's the type of player that I think he's going to turn into a really solid pass rusher in this league, maybe even a great pass rusher in this league if he continues to work on it. But as a rookie, it's hard for me to go just say right away, make that blanket statement, yeah, he's going to be a double-digit sack. It's just hard to say that about any rookie. Nothing against Kwity Paye. It's just kind of that's just hard unless you're like Nick Bosa, it's hard for that to say that, right?
Yeah.
And Nick Bosa was a top 5 pick. So, yeah. All right, let's move on to the other guy, Dayo Odeyingbo, another defensive lineman the Colts took out of Vanderbilt in the second round. I mean, physically, this guy's everything you want, right? I mean, he's got some of the longest arms I've ever seen on a defensive lineman, but he has that Achilles injury, right? He has that Achilles injury he suffered, and he'll probably miss a good portion of the season to start. but the Colts are hopeful that Dayo Odeyingbo will get on the field. What do you see from him maybe here in year one, the kind of impact that he'll have maybe after he gets back from that injury?
Well, yeah, I mean, you mentioned the arm length. I mean, not only does this guy have long arms, he's got the longest arms that a defensive end has ever been recorded since they've started recording these and releasing them. So, I mean, this guy's really long, really big. It's all just a matter of when he gets back. I mean, we've kind of debated on a couple other videos. We said, is it like late November, early December? Does he play a month or a month and a half of football? I mean, honestly, if he gets 6 weeks worth of football, I expect 2-3 sacks out of this guy just in that short amount of time. I mean, he'll be fresh. I mean, to be quite honest, he could probably even get more since he's that fresh, and he's going to be a nuisance to a lot of left tackles after a long season of dealing with guys. And then you have to deal with this long ass guy having to deal with him all day. So I think Dayo could actually be surprising and get, maybe even 3 or 4 sacks in a couple of games this year that I could just see it happening just due to fatigue on the opposite end and, him being the freshest guy out there. So I like what Odeyingbo brings right off the bat. He brings that opposite side pressure that the Colts have really been lacking. And teams aren't going to have any film on him, so they're not going to really know what to expect. I mean, that could really play into this guy's favor right here.
And he can move everywhere, right? He can move pretty much any position you put him at. He can play and be dominant. So I expect the Colts to use him a lot, like at maybe the other defensive tackle position on third downs, maybe defensive end. He can just play about everywhere you need him to. So I think once he gets healthy, I wouldn't be surprised if he sees a lot of minutes, right? Just because he was such a force at Vanderbilt, and Ballard has not been shy about saying, if he was not injured, he would have been in consideration at pick number 21. I mean, that's how talented the Colts feel like Dayo Odeyingbo is. And if he can return, if he can get 6 games, that's a big win to me because he's getting some experience in what a lot of people have said is a freshman, redshirt freshman year, essentially. So I would love for him to get some exposure, to get some playing time down the stretch. And if he's fresh, man, I mean, we know with now 17 games, some of these guys are going to be struggling at the end of the year, right? They're going to have to get some rest, going to have to take some off days. It's a long season, even longer now heading into the playoffs. The Colts have kind of a fresher body in there. I mean, he could really be very valuable come playoff time, especially if he's being very effective in there. All right, in the 4th round, the Indianapolis Colts selected their first offensive player. They took tight end out of SMU, Kylen Granson. Now, Derek and I had him on the podcast, and we love Kylen Granson, from a personality standpoint and also just as a player. We think he'd maybe have an impact here pretty early on at the tight end position. But, Derek, what do you think about Kylen Granson? How do you think maybe he could have an impact on this Colts offense here in year one?
Well, I mean, Irsay said it multiple times. They wanted to get a playmaking tight end, and, a lot of people think that Kylen Granson could be that answer. I think Kylen Granson in the 2021 season, in my opinion, is probably going to be the most impactful rookie that the Colts have in 2021. And that includes Kwity Paye. Kylen Granson and what he provides from that tight end room, being so athletic and being able to take the top off of a defense at times, I think is exactly what this team needs from the tight end room. And I think ultimately, again, it just comes down to big plays. And, Kylen Granson, you drafted for that exact reason because this guy certainly can make those big plays after the catch. So I really like this pick. I think that his impact, like I said, is going to be the best amongst the rookies. I'm very excited to see what Kylen Granson does this year.
Especially in that Frank Reich offense that really, very, very much likes to use the tight ends very prominently. So I could definitely agree with you there. I think he might surprise a lot of people and have a huge impact here in year number one. All right, moving on to round number 5, the Indianapolis Colts selected a safety. They added their safety room, selected Florida safety Sean Davis. So now they have 2 Sean Davises, both playing the same position, both similar playing styles. Chris Ballard is on a new level of troll right now. But nonetheless, this Sean Davis with a W, he's a very interesting player to me. I think he could maybe have an impact in a couple different ways, maybe not necessarily on the field in terms of, starter or playing at safety, but maybe some special teams. What are your thoughts on Sean Davis and his impact?
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy that's a hard hitter, and that's exactly what the Colts like in their safeties. They target safeties that only are capable of playing one way, and that's coming up and making a big play. And, like you said, probably won't get a ton of opportunities to play safety. I would expect a couple plays, maybe some goal line stands or something. He might be the guy that, you might bring in on a cleanup run stopping package. That could be something for him. But yeah, I mean, the Colts, they're always looking for more special teams guys on kickoff or on punt that are looking to just absolutely blow people up, and that's exactly where Sean Davis thrives. So would fully anticipate him finding a home there at some point.
Round 6, the Colts added to their quarterback room. They took quarterback from Texas, Sam Ellinger. Thoughts on what an impact he can have in year 1?
Well, I mean, obviously we don't anticipate him really doing much on the field when it comes to the starters. But when you talk about impact, you and I have said it multiple times over the last few weeks that we feel Sam Ellinger and what he is able to provide in practice terms with helping to get the defense ready and being able to mix things up with being a mobile quarterback, needing to adjust defensively to counteract Sam Ellinger being that way, and playing a lot like what Carson Wentz does, having the ability to take off like a Patrick Mahomes does, or like what a Deshaun Watson does, or what a Lamar Jackson does, obviously not to their pedigree, but plays kind of the same way. He is that way a little bit. So, it's good for the defense to go up against somebody like that who, is the gunslinger, run around, make you miss, try to create plays with his feet at times. That's good for your defense to be able to go up against certain things like that. So overall, not really going to do a lot of impact for the starters, at least from a game standpoint. But when we're talking about in practice, what this guy could potentially provide could mean the difference in the Colts defense really being a lot more prepared for some of these mobile quarterbacks this year.
I mean, there are so many in the AFC alone that you're just like, my goodness, the Colts are going to have to be on their toes, man, to stop some of these guys. And I think that can help you prepare a little bit more. Obviously, it's hard to prepare for any of these guys, but maybe get you the most prepared you can get with a guy like Ellinger here. And I think he could provide some stuff that you don't see, like you said. Like, he won't show it on the field, but like if your defense is more prepared because of what he showed in practice, that's huge for you. Okay, 2 more picks for the Colts, both in the 7th round. First pick in the 7th round, they picked Charleston wide receiver Michael Strawn, physical freak, absolute freak at the D2 level. I mean, he was completely dominating other teams at Charleston. What are your thoughts on his impact, though, here in year 1?
I really don't expect much, at least right off the bat. But yeah, like you said, I mean, just a physical freak. I mean, guy's 6'5", 220 pounds, and still runs somehow is in the 4.4s when it comes to running. I mean, that's just incredible. What the Colts try to do with him, I don't know. It'll be very interesting, but he certainly has the physical traits to maybe get included in some packages. Maybe he does have a game or two where he comes in, maybe gets a touchdown or something in the red zone because, Wentz is trying to throw to a 6'5", 220-pound guy. I mean, that would be pretty unstoppable for a lot of corners.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, this guy we think maybe will have an impact at least maybe make the final roster here, and that's Will Fries out of Penn State. Now, I know he was listed as a tackle. The Colts might feel like he's maybe a better guard coming into the league, maybe kind of like we saw with Danny Pinter last year, transitioning to a guard position. But I feel like he can play all positions, really. So he's really could be like a Joe Haig type of player for you. But what are your thoughts on a guy like Will Fries maybe having an impact here in year number 1 for the Colts?
Well, I think a couple people have the same opinion that Fries might beat out Davenport for that third left tackle spot.
I hope so. I really hope so.
I think a lot of people are hoping and thinking that. But I like Fries. I mean, I think he's a good player. And like you said, has experience at both positions at the guard and tackle position. I think that I don't necessarily think the Colts want to move him inside as much as we think because, we got Chris Reed. We got Danny Pinter. We got Joey Hunt coming back. We got all these guys that you now have on the inside at depth. I don't think adding Will Fries to the mixture with that is exactly what you want. But if, like you said, they want to use him in multiple different packages, if he wants to be a tackle/guard, can do both, then that's perfectly fine with me. You don't have to keep Davenport around, and you can keep Fries as your third tackle, and then can mix him in and out at guard if you absolutely need to. But very little impact right off the bat, unless somehow Sam Tevy gets hurt like week 1 or 2 and Fisher's not ready. Outside of that,
and Holden's not ready either. Right.
Yeah, and Holden's not ready either. Yeah. So, who knows how that goes. I mean, ultimately it's just a matter of whether or not this guy's going to make the roster, but I think he will. He'll be good for scout teams and other less, but don't expect much from him, at least from a starting standpoint.
Well, at least you hope not, because if you do, that probably means something went wrong on the offensive line. You had a lot of injuries if Will Fries has seen a lot of time, especially in year 1. So I think I agree with you there. But alrighty, that'll wrap up our look here at the Indianapolis Colts draft picks. Last year we did offense and defense, but the Colts only had 7 picks this year. A lot of them were a little bit later on, so we thought we'd just do one big video, just give our overall thoughts on them. What do you guys think? Do you agree with us? Do you think maybe Kylan Granson will have the most impact? Do you think maybe it's Kwity Paye? Do you think it's maybe another player? Let us know in the comments below. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. And as always, go Colts.